This is the Develop Basketball Podcast, where our experience is your rise. In each episode, we speak with some of the most experienced coaches and trainers in the industry and tap into their methods of success in player and team development. And I'm your host, Coach Chevy. On today's podcast, we have NCAA and NBA prospect specialist, Rashad Phillips. Rashad is the founder of Sports Talk 2319, where his in-depth player evaluations are used by NBA front offices and NCAA coaching staffs across the country. Rashad Phillips is a former player at University of Detroit Mercy, where he holds the scoring title with 2,319 points. After his college career, he played professionally until retiring in 2010. The same year, his jersey was retired at his alma mater. So tell me about, what your life was like, your journey was like growing up and getting into basketball in the first place.
It was actually a fun journey. I born and raised on the east side of Detroit. My father was a huge sports junkie. When he was a kid, played basketball in high school at Detroit Persian, which is one of the most legendary, historic high schools in all of the state of Michigan. He played basketball there. My mom was a huge sports person as well. So I got my name, Rashad, right? I'm named after Ahmad Rashad, the football player.
Wow.
So my family's a huge football family, and my father really loved Ahmad Rashad. Obviously, he changed his name. So since the beginning, I've been tied to sports, from my name to being born in it. So my father kind of started this program in 1979 called REACH Youth Programs. The acronym REACH, R meaning religion, E education, A athletics, C character, and H hope. And I always tried to carry that acronym with me to this day. So he started a community center in the east side of Detroit, and he had a gym. And from then on, I was kind of born around the game of basketball, learning the game, learning all the ins and outs to it. And being surrounded by so many talented players that come out of Detroit. Like, I come from under Steve Smith and Chris Webber and guys like that, Derek Coleman. And, so I was able to witness this as a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid. So I was being injected with the aura of being a great athlete at such a young age. So I was able to kind of take that with me and begin my basketball, football, baseball career. And I turned out to be pretty decent.
Decent. If you're decent, then I don't know what I can categorize myself as. Okay, so then who would you say was probably like the most influential person for you growing up, other than your dad and your mom? Who had the most impact on your development as a player younger?
Wow. Outside of my parents, I would probably say Isaiah Thomas had a huge influence on me as a kid, because being small, being told that you're not physically ready to be great at a sport that's built for giants.
Yeah.
To watch Isaiah Thomas be great at the game at a small stature was something that I embodied as a kid.
Yeah.
I watched Isaiah win a national title in 1981 with the Indiana Hoosiers. And then he went on to the Detroit Pistons in my hometown, where he was iconic. He won back-to-back NBA championships. And I just watched how he was able to make his surroundings better. He made the city of Detroit better with who he was, and he stood for something. And that inspired me to one day say, maybe I can do that with my surroundings. And that kind of helped me get to the level I wanted to get to in the game of basketball. Isaiah Thomas.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great person to model your game after for sure. Now, like, when you were getting recruited and you were kind of going through the whole process, what was that experience like for you? And what made you choose Detroit Mercy?
So, going through high school, I was, considered, one of the most talented players in the area. But I always knew that they would hold something against me, and that was my size. You know,
Mhm.
I was going into high school. I was, 4'8". You
That's
know,
crazy.
I'm embarrassed to say that. I was 4'8" going into high school, but I ended up making varsity and starting. I was a varsity starting point guard at just under 5 feet tall. So you
Mm.
can imagine how that looked on the court, right? The jersey was too big for me. My shorts was too big. And as I continued to grow, by the time my senior year, I was 5'8". So I
Okay.
looked like a normal human being on the basketball court. I got stronger, I got faster, I got quicker, but
Uh-huh.
my thirst to be great continued to grow. There was a
Mm.
fire that burned inside of me. We know if he's big enough for the college level. We don't know if
Mm.
he's fast enough. We don't know if he's strong enough. And for me, that's what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
So I end up choosing to go to the University of Detroit Mercy, which was my hometown college. And
Hmm.
the reason I went to UAD, two reasons. The first reason I went to UAD is because I was academically ineligible.
Okay.
So I wanted to go to Georgia Tech, but at that
Hmm.
time, the ACC did not accept non-qualifiers for Prop
Okay.
48.
Mm.
So Detroit was my choice. And I love UAD because as a kid, I grew up watching the great players there: Archie Tellis, John Long,
Hmm.
Terry Tyler, Terry Durod, rest in peace, and Spencer Haywood and Dave DeBuscher, and so
Yeah.
many great historic players. So I felt that, well, I can be the next great player here.
Hmm.
So University of Detroit it was.
That's awesome. Now you made your decision and you kind of went out for a second. So you kind of said that you had a fire lit up under you just because you had, obviously you were always smaller. You're always trying to prove yourself. Um, and obviously that's instilled this competitive nature about you. So what was it that made you decide like, okay, I need to create my own, I guess, dictionary when it comes to identifying players and what kind of spurred that?
Well, again, just I was born into basketball. So here's
Hmm.
the story that leads to answer your question. So me creating this positions dictionary, this positions metric, this hoopanary. Yeah, the hoopanary. So my father started a scouting service back when like 1986.
Okay.
Okay, like
Hmm.
1986. I was 8 years old. And he would take me to high school games. And at the high school games, he would give me a notepad and paper and he would tell me, Rashad, he would give me the paper, he'll give me a pencil, and he'll tell me, I need you to write down scouting reports on the best players that you see on the court.
Mm.
So I'm 8 years old at the high school game, and I'm writing scouting reports at 8 years old.
Wow.
So what my father started to do, we would go to high school games twice a week, Tuesday and Friday at 3:30. We would drive all over the city, go to different high school games. So as the seasons would end, my dad would have a notebook full of scouting reports from his 8-year-old.
Wow.
My dad built a scouting service off of his son's scouting reports.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
So he tells the story a lot better than me, but people loved his scouting reports. And he would tell people, my son wrote that, and people didn't believe him. Like, no
Mm.
way. He's like, no, Rashad actually writes my scouting reports. They're like, he's only 8, he's 9. Because each year I would do it. So I've seen with my own eyes
Hmm.
so much basketball, so many different styles of players, so many different techniques, so that it was kind of easy for me to look at the landscape of basketball and
Hmm.
speed everything up to today and say, hey, this game has evolved.
Right.
But something that hasn't evolved with the game is the terminology. How come cars can evolve?
Mm-hmm.
How come phones can evolve? How come TVs can evolve? How come computers evolve?
Right.
Sports evolve, but how come the terminology hasn't caught up with the evolution of the game?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to sit back and really study the game, and then I came up with these position metrics that fit today's players and fit players in the past that were mislabeled.
Yeah.
And I was able to present that, and so far it looks promising.
Yeah. No, I freaking love it. And I didn't, when I was at Creighton, and I was coaching and we were recruiting kids, and we were like in that awkward position. So we weren't BCS, but
Yeah,
we weren't mid-major either.
yeah,
So we were always fighting BCS programs for kids. And one of the things is when you get to that, for girls, when you get to that 6 foot height,
yeah.
we would call them like a tweener. You know, if they could.
I hate that word. That's a bad word.
We couldn't think of anything.
We gotta bleep that word out. That's a bleep. That's a bleep. Oh, you use the T
Yeah,
word.
I didn't even want to say it, but yeah, we called them that because they were like, they could play like a guard, but they were tall for our, you know, for girls, and they didn't play the post, but they could handle it, they could shoot it. So anyways, I just thought about that. We made a living off that position though. You know, that was the position that BCS schools were just a little too
Yeah,
nervous about taking.
yeah.
So but that was a matchup nightmare on our end, and we just never defined it. We never defined that word, but we knew what they looked like. So
Yeah.
we just picked a random word and said that's what they are. So I can truly appreciate that, the actual labeling of these kids, because I think a lot of times what happens in the recruiting world is you get boxed in, and then there's the boxing in, and it kind of limits the kid from actually growing and developing. But then also the development plan and structure is only created for that post or guard. You know, it's an either or, a lot of times. So I guess if you are in that position now, say you're one of those positions where it's not a traditional position, right? And you're being recruited, how would you decipher between the choices you have from offers, you know, and how would you determine if a school is going to develop you on the right track, for your position?
For me, I would always look at the data. There's always data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can use my own situation in this. So when Georgia Tech recruited me, and I felt like Georgia Tech was the perfect place for me because the data, Georgia Tech was always great with scoring small point guards at the time. They had Travis Best, they had Mark Price, they had Kenny Anderson, they had Stephon Marbury. So I felt like I was in that same lineage. Like those are scoring guards. That would be a perfect situation for me.
Right.
So as a player, when you're being recruited and you're looking at schools, you have to find someone that fits your style of play and see if they had some success at that particular place. So you always have to do your research when you're looking to go to a certain school. So for an example, if you're a 6'2" combo guard, you need to look at places that have other 6'2" combo guards and say, well, maybe I could go there because that 6'2" combo guard is having some success there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you look at a coach like Tom Crean, right? Tom Crean coached Dwayne Wade at Marquette. Dwayne Wade was kind of like a combo guard, shooting guard in college. And then Tom Crean had Anthony Edwards, who he compares Dwayne Wade to, right?
Yeah.
So you have to follow your own DNA.
Yes.
So you don't make a mistake in recruiting. So if this school is not good with scoring point guards, I was a hybrid guard, but back then there was no such thing as the term hybrid guard.
Right.
So I had to look at places that I felt that I would be able to produce because they can handle what I am. So can your garage hold this Lamborghini?
Yeah.
And if your garage can't hold this Lamborghini, then we're not driving there.
Yes.
So that's how I look at it.
That is excellent advice. Seriously. And it's funny because I think it's easy to get misled because there's a lot of shiny things in recruiting. You know how it is, especially today. So, there's a lot of buzzwords being used in the recruiting trail. And I think like you said, you go with the data and you do a little homework and you can find out exactly where you're supposed to be. So that's really, really good advice. Now with everything that you've kind of experienced and I kind of got ahead of it. I want to know what, is in I guess a simple form of what is your breakdown of these positions? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What can you go down the line of your positions?
Sure. So obviously there's the traditional 5 slots, right? Point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. So boring. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
At the 5, right? So what I did was I didn't eliminate the 5 positions. I just created shades of 5 because you look at the point guard position. Now I added traditional guard, point guard, and hybrid guard. So now it's like a fan. It spreads out, right? You got traditional, point guard, and hybrid. So now they're all in kind of the same family, but they're still different.
Right.
So you can look at it like cars. You can look at it like animals. However you want to do it. So you look at it like animals. Let's say like dogs. You got like a pit bull. You got a boxer, and you got a German shepherd. Like they're all dogs. Like I'm a dog lover, right? I have an Australian shepherd. I got 3 dogs. I got a little Yorkie. I got a Havanese, and I got an Australian shepherd. Right? They're all 3 of them are dogs.
Right.
But they're different, right? They have different characteristics. All right. Just like cars, you got a Mercedes-Benz, you got a BMW, and you got an Audi, right?
Yeah.
3 different cars. They're all cars, but they all serve different purposes.
Right.
So that's how I was able to create that. So you got traditional guard, which is more of a Jason Kidd. Like he's like the forefather of a traditional guard, like a sacrificial position. We used to say like pass first guard, right? He's pass first guard. You'd be like, oh, okay, pass first. Basically, that's a traditional guard.
Okay.
Jason Kidd, John Stockton, guys like that. Then you have the point guard, who is more of a offensive scorer first, like a point guard, like a Trae Young, a Chris Paul, Isaiah Thomas, guys that could score, but also facilitate at the same time. But they will not go above and beyond to pass the ball to you. Okay. I like that. Right? Yeah. And then the hybrid guard, which is more like a Steph Curry, more of a guard that can just completely obliterate your defense with scoring the ball handling, attacking. And like Steph Curry's a hybrid guard. Damian Lillard's a hybrid guard. Yes. I believe I was a hybrid guard, so Gilbert Arenas was a hybrid guard. Like there's been a lineage of that position. We just wasn't able to identify with it.
Right.
So then you go over, you got combo guard, which we've all used for years. Combo guard, shooting guard. And I've gotten this question, I'm gonna answer it on your show. You get people who give you pushback when you create something. So I get people saying, well, what's the difference between a combo guard and a hybrid guard? That's the same thing. I've been getting those questions. So I want to answer that on your show, right?
Okay.
There's a huge difference between a combo guard and a hybrid guard. So a combo guard is a lot like it's kind of stuck in between a point guard and a shooting guard.
Okay.
Okay. A hybrid guard is its own entity, like it's its own thing. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
mix of anything. It's just a hybrid. So I
Mm-hmm.
look at it like snakes. All right,
Okay.
look at it like snakes. There's a difference between a king cobra and a rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
A king cobra is more deadly. A rattlesnake is less deadly, even though it's still a snake. That's the difference
Right.
between a hybrid guard and a combo guard.
I see. Okay.
One is more poisonous than the other.
Mm.
You know, so that's you see what I'm saying? There's a slight difference in the position. So then you got shooting guard, you got small forward, and then you have dual forward, which is the position that LeBron James is.
I saw your post. I like that. The one where you showed Ben Simmons and
dual forward.
Yeah. I love that. I love that naming because I think it hits it right on the head. Those guys they just take over games.
Just take over. They're
That shoots are crazy. Yeah.
You know, so I came up with that, the dual forward. I think LeBron James is the ideation. I think he's the oracle. I think he's the end all be all for the dual forward, right? But then you look at the lineage. Larry Bird was a dual forward. Grant Hill was a dual forward. Ben Simmons is a dual forward. Julius Randle, who just made it his first All-Star appearance, is a dual forward. So that position has data, but it's never had an identity.
Right. Yeah.
So then you have hybrid posts, you got power forward, center, and point center. So hybrid post is a guy like a Kevin Garnett.
Okay.
Kevin Garnett is like he's the poster player for a hybrid post. Does a little bit of everything. An anchor on defense, a terrific offensive player, can initiate offense, can score, can rebound, can shot block, can cut. That's why we call them hybrid posts.
I love it.
You dig deeper in the lineage of hybrid posts. Hakeem Olajuwon was a hybrid post. He wasn't a center.
Right.
Power forward. He was a hybrid post. Dennis Rodman was a hybrid post.
Yeah.
There's a lineage of these names that I've created.
Right.
Just struggle as a basketball community trying to find an identity for them. So then you have obviously power forward, center, and then point center is like a big that initiates offense that is deadly with their vision. So you look at like Nikola Jokic from Denver.
Yes. Okay.
He's a point center. You look at Chris Webber when Chris Webber was at Sacramento. He was a point center. You look at Wilt Chamberlain, led the NBA in assists one year. Was a point center. So that identification has lineage as well. So all these positions have data.
Right.
But the history of the game would always slot all these great athletes in different type of styles in 5 slots. Now imagine if you only can get 5 hairdos. There's 100 different hairdos, right?
Yeah.
But what if they say you only can use 5 hairdos? It's like, well, that's how I feel like they limited what we can have. And I think that's you're cheating the game, you're hurting the game, but by not allowing the players that have evolved and the players that were before their time to give them proper identification. So that's why I kind of created that, because I wanted to give an identity to all these players.
Yeah, and it's kind of surprising the more you talk about it, that no one's done this before, you know. And I'm pretty sure there's probably somebody who's like, I thought about that, but they didn't put it out or whatever is the case. But because it can be restricting from a development standpoint too. As a young player, if say they don't have a person like you had, Isaiah Thomas, and your parents, and they're gonna have the mentality that, okay, this is the only position I can play because I'm 6'8" and I'm supposed to be a back to the basket post player. Correct. So I like trying to get this out and make sure that kids know that they have the opportunity to kind of add some more dimensions to their game, because it doesn't have to be so limited. So with that, from a youth standpoint, I don't know, do you have kids?
2 daughters.
2 daughters. That's right. You got one. I saw you guys working out.
She's going to be a hybrid guard.
Let's go. Okay. Well, like with that, like when it comes to youth development, what do you feel like is hurting the development of these kids when it comes to, the AAU teams or any training? Like what do you see?
I think social media is a gift and a curse. And I think the people who use it for the good get good out of it, and people who use it for the bad get bad out of it. And I'm speaking to the parents here. I believe that youth sports, the issue a lot of times is the parents want to skip steps with their children. And in order to be great at anything, you're not going to be able to take any shortcuts. You're going to have to take the necessary route to get to your destination. And I think a lot of parents have allowed social media to trick them into believing that there are shortcuts.
Yes.
As soon as you believe that there isn't any shortcuts, the better off you'll be in preparing your child for their road to their glory. So as a parent myself, I make sure that I don't allow my daughter to have a shortcut to where she wants to end up. I make sure that we take the stairs, and we're going to get all the way to the top, but we're going to take the stairs.
That is a great answer. We're definitely using that one as a clip, just so you know. That is great. No, because it's I mean, honestly, that would encapsulate a lot of the issues that exist in even recruiting. Like the social media piece is just, it's intoxicating for parents.
Yes.
It's you get one little, you get a follow, you get a like, and they're, there's a lot of parents think that means a lot more than it does. And so I feel like a lot of parents, and nothing against it, but like they feel like their kid has arrived too early. But then when it's actually time to, get them in there against good players, and they don't understand why that kind of flips. So I love that, because I think development, when you look at development, it's a long, and it's not instant gratification. So I really love that answer, because I think that's going to be very eye-opening to a lot of parents, especially in our area. But okay, so if you are looking at that and you're a parent, I mean, you obviously are a parent, but you know how to teach your kids, so you're in a different boat. What would you do if you weren't so, if you didn't have any skill behind what you're able to teach your daughter now? What would you do?
I do my homework. I use social media. I use the search bar. I look for the right teachers. I look for, where can I put my child to get the best instruction? I have a 14-year-old that took up gymnastics. Okay. I've never done gymnastics in my life, but I was able to, like I said, social media, if you use it as a tool that it is in the right way, it could be beneficial.
Right.
So I was able to find the right trainers, the right program, my daughter in, and entrust them into teaching her something that I didn't come from that world.
Yeah.
But even though I wasn't a gymnast, the same principles apply from the mentality of being a great athlete. It's baseball, gymnastics, golf, whatever it is. The mentality is doing it the right way. There's not going to be any shortcuts for you to be great at this.
Right.
It's going to be a grueling process. There's no elevators to this. And I tell my oldest daughter this all the time. When you get on the elevator and you push the button to go all the way to the top, the elevator gets you up there in like 4 seconds. But if you take the stairs, it takes you a lot longer and you appreciate it more.
Yeah.
So again, taking the stairs in sports gives you a better outlook on what you've done to get to that point. I think elevator athletes, the ones that want to take the elevator up, they can't sustain being on top because it was so quick to get there. Right. The ones that take the stairs, they know, man, every grueling step, I caught cramps walking up here.
Yeah.
You remember that. And I try to teach that same, as a parent, I take that same approach.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Now, like if you're a college coach and you want to, I guess, be better as far as, you know, get in that box outside of your program, you want to get a little bit more, I guess, clear with the ability to develop these kids that are the hybrids and that are not the traditional position. How would you approach your development plan? Like just you know, what would you do to get better at coaching those kids and developing them?
You know, as a coach, you have to adapt with the times. That's what I think that's the issue with coaching these days. Some of these coaches are still in the 80s. They're still in the 90s. You have to adapt with the times. You can't have a flip phone anymore. Like things change, right? As things change, you have to evolve with the times. And when you look at, you know, the great college coaches, what makes them great college coaches is that they evolved. And for me, I would study the actual kid and how I can adjust the way I coach for that kid instead of making that kid adjust to how I am. And that's what college coaches mess up, is that they're not willing to sacrifice for the kid. They want the kid to sacrifice for them. And I think it has to be the other way around sometimes. If I'm recruiting a hybrid guard, but I've only coached traditional guards my entire career, it's my job to sacrifice that for this kid instead of making that kid try to become a traditional guard. That's the issue. There's a clash. There's a clash there. And the kid loses out 90% of the time. Yeah. Because the coach is like, well, this is my program, so you can leave. And the kid end up transferring because you recruited an orange, but your team is full of apples.
Yes. That's the issue. Very good. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So you have a lot of respect for Florida State's program, right? The men's program. What do you think what do you think separates them from a lot of other programs that could be good?
They evolve. I believe the Florida State program is the top program in college basketball right now because they have the proper people in place. Coach Hamilton's fantastic. Coach Smith, Coach CY, they understand who they're recruiting. For your program to keep running like it's running, like Florida State, like Gonzaga, you have to know who you're recruiting. And once you recruit them, you have to adjust the way you coach for that recruitee. And I don't know if that's a word, but it sounded good. Yeah. So that's what Florida State has done. They've done a terrific job of adjusting to who they're bringing in. So if they're going to recruit grapes, then they're going to create a basket where they can adapt to grapes. If they're going to recruit apples, they're going to adapt to apples. If they're going to recruit, like that's what what keeps your program fresh, and that's what keeps it on the positive side of being able to continue to grab kids.
Yeah, because I know we talked about once Patrick Williams, and you assessed that he was going to be a ridiculous player in the pros. And obviously his role at Florida State was different, so it made people think that or underrate him in his ability to play at the professional level. What do you think? Like, how do you feel like his development was still able to get him to play in the NBA and play well while still having a different role at the college level? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's all, this happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It happens all the times. When kids play at the college level, it's a different style. Like the NBA and college are two different games.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to see Patrick Williams' ability. Like, kids will show flashes of their greatness within the system.
Okay.
I was able to see Patrick's greatness flash. It may flash for like 6 seconds, but it was enough where I could say, "Woo, man!" In NBA space, that 6 seconds could be 24 seconds, or like I was able. So great players leave remnants on the game, no matter if it's college style, European style, summer league, whatever, practice. Patrick Williams would always leave sprinkles of who he really was during his college days. So that's what I was able to say, oh no, he's going to be really good when he gets to the pros.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I know what you mean, because at every level you can kind of see that's as a recruiter, from at the college level, that's what you're watching and you see in high school.
Yeah.
And you look for the kids that have those sprinkles and that show, because the ones who are up there are probably out of your reach anyway. So you gotta be able to identify those ones that have the potential. So I like that. Now, just to kind of, this is the last question for you.
Sure.
What is one of the funniest or coolest stories that you have as a player, or, I know you were doing some training here and there, but, or no, you actually had a full training business. What is one of the funniest stories or coolest stories you've ever had?
Oh, I got so many stories. I'm laughing because I don't know which one to use. I'll go with one of the coolest stories this time.
Okay.
So when I first started Skills Unlimited, I still wear my stuff. When I first started Skills Unlimited, I retired early at 30. I started Skills Unlimited. And I was just like, I want to just give back. Like, I just wanted to give. I just wanted to give. I was in a giving mood. I just want to give. I want to just teach. Right. And first year I start my program. Father brings his son to me, and he's like 10 years old, little kid. And he's like, my son wants to be a basketball player, but I don't know. Right. And he's like, little bitty scrawny kid. And I'm like, well, and I'm like, when you're running a business, you got to sell yourself. You become a car salesman. Right. So I'm like, well, if he sticks with me, we can probably make that dream happen, And so the first training session, his father's like, I'm going to stick it out with you. We're going to stick it out together. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But every parent tells you that, right? So the first training session, I'm like, man, your jump shot is so flat, kid. Like, you shoot a flat jump shot. You shoot a flat jump shot. For about a year of training with this kid, he was just flat, still flat. No matter what I taught him, he just kept shooting flat, kept shooting flat, kept shooting flat. So after about 7 years, he ended up becoming his high school's all-time leading scorer.
Wow.
And he went off to play college basketball. And right now, he's a senior, and he's top 5 in the country in 3-pointers and 3-point percentage.
Wow.
So I still tease him and say, seems like you learn how not to shoot the ball short, you know? So he went from a kid that was just couldn't get the technique of a jump shot correct. He couldn't get it right. Now today, he's one of the best shooters in college basketball. And that's wild.
That is crazy. Well, it goes to show that the parent was down to stick with you, one, because it's for 7 years at least, but two, it shows the importance and value of that process and being patient. So
yes,
that is awesome. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time, and don't forget to support by subscribing and sharing.